Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving deep into a really remarkable set of sources, all centered around this timeless book known as the Tao Te Ching. It's a text that, well, while it's ancient, it offers these striking insights into the art of living that just resonates so powerfully, even today.
It truly does, yeah. What's so compelling, I think, is that while the author Lao Tzu, he remains quite a mysterious figure, um, the profound wisdom captured in this text is just as vital, just as applicable now as it was centuries ago. It's not merely some historical document, you know? It's a remarkably practical guide for cultivating harmony, both in our personal lives and, well, even in how societies might function better.
Right. So our mission today is to really try and extract the most important nuggets from these materials you've provided. We're talking everything from the fundamental philosophy of the Tao itself, all the way down to like incredibly practical advice on how we can all find a bit more peace, maybe more effectiveness and flow in our daily lives. We've pulled from a really rich mix, articles, study guides, and some particularly illuminating audiobook excerpts too. Let's start right at the beginning, shall we? With the man, or, well, perhaps the legend himself, Lao Tzu. Our sources paint this fascinating, if kind of elusive picture. What's the most compelling theory or legend about his existence? Why is he considered so enigmatic?
Well, the sources make it really clear that we have practically nothing concrete on him. I mean, his very existence is actually highly debated. He might have been an older contemporary of Confucius, maybe even an archive keeper in some ancient petty kingdom. The most vivid legend, the one you usually hear, suggests he saw his country declining, decided to leave, and at the frontier, a guard recognized him. This guard apparently asked him to write down his wisdom before he left for good, so he obliged, writing the Tao Te Ching, and then as the legend finishes, he left no traces, just vanished.
Vanished, wow. And yet, despite that image, the disappearing sage, his teachings show such a deep concern for society, don't they? This isn't really the work of some detached hermit, is it?
No, not at all. That's a great point. Despite being commonly seen as this, reclusive figure, the text profoundly indicates he deeply cared about society. The Tao Te Ching, among its many layers, is actually described by some sources as a treatise on the art of government, whether that's governing a whole country or even, as one source notes, the delicate task of, say, raising a child. This isn't the writing of someone disengaged from human concerns. It's profoundly engaged with how we can all live and interact more harmoniously.
Absolutely. And at the very heart of all his teachings is this central, often quite paradoxical concept, the Tao. If it's so fundamental, how do our sources even try to define something that's, well, by its very nature, supposed to be unnameable?
Stepping back a bit, the Tao isn't just a concept, right? It's presented as the very fabric of existence, the unnameable origin from which everything arises. Everything, including, all the dualities we perceive. It's described as formless and perfect, existing even before the universe was born. Our sources call it infinite, eternally present, and maybe even older than God. It's depicted as being beyond is and is not, and famously described as darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Pretty heavy stuff.
That's an incredibly profound description, yeah.
Oh.
But how does one actually access that? Or experience something so utterly abstract and unnameable in daily life? Our sources must hint at that, right? Even subtly.
They do, yeah. They often frame it as the Great Mother, the mother of the universe, from whom all things are born. The Tao Te Ching itself says, one gives birth to two, two gives birth to three, and three gives birth to all things. Now, this isn't a literal birth, obviously. It's more illustrating its role as the primal, fertile source, the source from which all complexity and diversity emerge. Even concepts like good and evil, or beauty and ugliness, they're seen as just arising from the Tao's inherent unity. So it's about recognizing that underlying unity in everything we see.
Okay, so moving to another concept that really jumped out from the sources, and frankly one of the most intriguing, is Wei Wu Wei. The phrase itself, it's often misunderstood, isn't it? Like simple passivity. But our sources make it clear it's far more nuanced than just doing nothing. What exactly does the Tao Te Ching mean by that? And how is it not just about inaction?
Yeah, that's a really crucial distinction. It literally translates as doing, not doing. But it's actually presented as the purest, the most effective form of action. It's about effortless, spontaneous, and truly effective action. Think of like an athlete who's performing perfectly, totally in the zone, without conscious interference. The movement just happens. There's this fluidity where thought and action become one. Or, as one of our sources puts it so beautifully, the poem writes the poem. It fundamentally challenges our usual notions of productivity, It suggests true mastery comes when the doer kind of vanishes into the deed, trusting the inherent intelligence of the universe rather than trying to force an outcome.
It sounds like a pretty radical idea, though truly letting go and trusting this intelligence of the universe. But in a world that often demands conscious effort, grit, pushing through, isn't there a risk of becoming too passive? How does Wei Wu Wei really separate itself from just, well, doing nothing?
That's a fair question, absolutely. And that's where the nuance really comes in. It's not about being passive or idle at all. It's about acting in alignment with the natural flow of things rather than pushing against it. It involves discernment, knowing when to act and when to sort of let things be. And when you do act, doing so without unnecessary friction or, ego-driven interference. It's kind of like a boat sailing with the wind, not struggling against a current. You're using the existing energy.
That makes sense. And that idea of effortless action, it seems to tie directly into another powerful principle you mentioned, softness. In a world where we often equate strength with being rigid, with using force, how does the Tao Te Ching present softness as, well, a powerful virtue?
This point really invites us to reconsider where true power actually lies. Softness, in this context, it's defined as suppleness, adaptability, and endurance. Basically, the exact opposite of rigidity. Our sources illustrate its power really beautifully, I think, likening it to a Tai Chi or an Aikido master who, by yielding, can redirect huge amounts of force without meeting it head-on. They show just how powerful this softness is. Water is the ultimate analogy used throughout the text, right? It's soft and yielding, yet it can dissolve the hard and inflexible. It erodes stone over time. So it's about not resisting directly, but yielding, allowing, and finding the path of least resistance often turns out to be the most effective path.
That brings us nicely to the master, or sometimes called the sage, this central idealized figure in the Tao Te Ching. And this isn't just an abstract concept, is it? Our sources explicitly state, "I have seen it," referring to actual individuals who seem to embody this way of being. The master is someone described as perfectly in harmony with the way things are. They're compassionate, humble, and remarkably detached.
Yeah, and a truly remarkable aspect of the master's wisdom, I think, lies in their approach to what we usually label as evil. They don't see it as some external opposing force that needs to be fought. Instead, they see it more as an opaqueness or a state of self-absorption, something that's simply out of harmony with the universal process. Think of it like a dirty window the light just can't shine through properly. And this perspective, it allows them great compassion for the wicked and the selfish because they operate outside conventional moral judgments. They don't reject anyone. They simply see the obstruction, the lack of clarity.
And it's truly fascinating, isn't it, that the source material intentionally uses she for the master, at least as often as he. It even states that Lao Tzu's teaching is by far the most female of the great world religions. This really seems to emphasize those gentle, yielding, nurturing qualities, much like that principle of softness we just talked about, qualities associated with the Tao itself.
It absolutely underscores the essence of the teachings, yes. This figure, the master, embodies these profound paradoxes. The more truly solitary we are, the more compassionate we can be. Or the more we let go of what we love, the more present our love becomes. These aren't just clever sayings. They're meant to point towards deeper, often counterintuitive truths about how life works. For instance, letting go of attachment to a specific outcome allows for much freer, more effective action, which ties right back to Wei Wu Wei, doesn't it?
It does, and a real key to understanding this deeper truth, particularly the master's wisdom, seems to be the concept of emptiness. Chapter 11 gives some powerful examples. The center hole in a wheel, right? The space inside a pot, or the inner space of a house. It points out that while we interact with the physical parts, it's actually the absence, the emptiness that makes them useful.
Exactly. This principle reminds us that true utility, true purpose, often lies in what's intangible or empty, rather than just the solid physical form. Think of a cup, we focus on the clay, the glaze, the design maybe, but it's the empty space inside that actually makes it useful for holding liquid. So while we work with the spokes of the wheel, the clay of the pot, or the walls of the house, it's the non-being, that emptiness, that makes these things functional, livable. It's a profound reminder, I think, that what we often can't see or touch holds immense significance. It provides potential, possibility.
So, okay, if the master embodies this way of living individually, what happens when you try to scale that kind of effortless wisdom up to lead entire societies? The Tao Te Ching offers a strikingly, counterintuitive vision for governance, doesn't it? I love that analogy you mentioned. Governing a large country is like frying a small fish. You spoil it with too much poking. It instantly brings to mind, all those times I've personally overmanaged some simple task or even a conversation and just made it worse. It's such a relatable image of the dangers of over-control, isn't it?
It truly is, yeah. And this vision of governance is remarkably minimalist and humble. The text firmly states that weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. It emphasizes that if a leader absolutely must enter battle, they should do so gravely, with sorrow and with great compassion, as if he were attending a funeral. Now, that is a stark contrast to how we often think about power and defense today, where force can sometimes feel like the first resort, not the absolute last.
It certainly is. And the ideal leader described here, the master, they act in such a way that the people are hardly aware of their existence. And when the work gets done, the people apparently say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. It sounds like it's all about fostering self-reliance and inner strength, not creating dependence or control.
Which really begs the question, what might our societies look like if leaders truly focused on, as the text says, emptying people's minds and filling their cores? Which seems to mean simplifying their desires and nurturing their inherent nature rather than constantly trying to control and impose things. The text is quite clear. If you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. It even links societal decline directly to forgetting the Dao, suggesting that all these artificial constructs like goodness and piety or morality and justice, they only appear when the natural, spontaneous way is lost, when true, inherent virtue has faded.
So, bringing it back down to us day to day. Beyond these grand concepts of governance and the mysterious Tao, the Tao Te Ching offers some really profound practical wisdom for just personal well-being. Inner peace. Most of us, let's be honest, chase happiness by acquiring more money, more success, more stuff. But this text completely flips that idea on its head. It suggests true freedom comes from releasing desire, and famously says, free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. What does that actually look like in our hyper-consumerist world? Does it mean giving everything up, living like a monk, or is it something subtler?
Yeah, it's definitely not about giving everything up in a literal sense, for most people anyway. It's much more about examining our attachment to things, our clinging. If your happiness hinges entirely on possessing external things, money, status, whatever, you'll always be chasing the next thing. You'll never quite arrive. As the text puts it pretty bluntly, if your happiness depends on money, you will never be happy with yourself. It's about finding contentment within, realizing that the true mystery, the deeper understanding, it comes from a place that isn't clouded by constant grasping or wanting.
It also encourages us to embrace imperfection, which, wow, is such a freeing thought in our culture that constantly pushes for perfection.
Indeed, yeah. The text paradoxically states, if you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to become full, let yourself be empty. This really challenges our constant striving for some imagined perfect state. It suggests wholeness comes from accepting all parts of ourselves in reality, the light and the shadow, not by trying to force everything into some rigid ideal. It's about finding balance by embracing the natural ebb and flow, the imperfections, and, well, the inherent paradoxes of life itself.
Ultimately, then, it seems to boil down to finding that stillness.
Yeah.
Empty your mind of all thoughts, let your heart be at peace, and cultivating certain core virtues.
Exactly. And those virtues are beautifully distilled into what Lao Tzu calls the three treasures: simplicity, patience, compassion. Simple words, but profound concepts. These are presented as your greatest guides, your truest form of wealth. The text also presents this fascinating contrast between pursuing knowledge and practicing the Tao. Knowledge, it says, is when something is continually added to your understanding. Accumulation. But in practicing the Tao, something is dropped every day. It implies this process of shedding, of letting go unnecessary attachments, rigid beliefs, preconceived notions, until one arrives at non-action, Wei Wu Wei, and true mastery through non-interference. It suggests that not knowing is true knowledge, presuming to know is a disease. True understanding, then, comes more from looking inside, from direct experience, intuitive knowing, rather than solely through intellectual accumulation.
Wow. This deep dive into the Tao Te Ching has really shown us a truly timeless path, hasn't it? A path to profound peace and effectiveness, one rooted in aligning with the natural flow of the universe, rather than constantly battling against it. It's such a powerful reminder that real strength often lies in softness, and true action can sometimes be found in effortless non-action.
Absolutely. And when we connect this to the bigger picture, Lao Tzu's wisdom isn't just some ancient philosophy to be admired from a distance, It actively challenges us right here, right now, to reconsider how we approach action, leadership, even personal fulfillment in our own modern lives. It's really inviting us to find strength in yielding and to discover a profound clarity in simplicity. It's ultimately a call to trust that deep inherent intelligence that underlies everything.
So perhaps the ultimate challenge Lao Tzu presents us with is this. If we are all potentially the master, capable of that effortless action and boundless compassion, what small thing can you drop today? Or what opaqueness, what bit of self-absorption can you maybe clear away to allow that inner harmony to shine through a little more, both for yourself and maybe for others too? Well, if you enjoyed this deep dive, please do take a moment to like this episode. Perhaps leave a comment with your own insights and reflections. We'd love to hear them. And of course, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on future explorations into fascinating topics like this one. To all of you listening out there, may your journey be filled with clarity and purpose, and may you find that deep well of peace within your own heart. Until next time.